residents keep their heads down and follow the rules, but I learned the hard way that HOA President Karen Wilson doesn't just enforce rules, she enjoys making them up. My story begins last summer when I decided to repaint my house. Nothing dramatic, just refreshing the sage green color. I filled out all the necessary paperwork, submitted the paint codes, and received written approval from the Architectural Review Committee. I hired professionals to complete the job over the weekend while I was away on business. When I returned on Sunday, there was a violation notice on my door, claiming I had painted my house an unapproved color. I was fined $100 per day until it was corrected. Confused, I called the number on the notice. Karen answered, explaining that while the color was approved, I hadn't received permission for the specific weekend, as the noise was disruptive. I reminded her the bylaws never stated I needed approval for the work date. She paused and then said, perhaps we need to update our bylaws. The fine stands. I emailed my approval documents to the board, and the next day, I received an email saying the violation was waived as a courtesy, though no apology was offered. I thought it was over. I was wrong. The following week, Karen started walking past my house every evening, clipboard in hand, scrutinizing my property. Notices began arriving. My grass was a quarter-inch too tall, my mailbox needed repainting, my garbage bins were visible from the street. Each violation came with a fine, and each time I disputed them with photographic evidence, they were reluctantly dismissed. What Karen didn't know was that I wasn't just any resident. I own Reynolds Towing, the largest towing company in the county. We handle illegal parking, accident recovery, and yes, contracts with several HOAs in the area, just not Oakwood Estates. That contract belongs to my competitor, who happens to be Karen's brother-in-law. Things escalated when I hosted a small barbecue for my employees one Saturday afternoon. Around 2 p.m., Karen rang my doorbell continuously until I answered. We've received noise complaints, she announced. From whom? I asked. I spoke with my neighbors, and they're fine with it. Karen snapped, it's confidential. She demanded I stop the gathering, but I reminded her of the bylaws, which only required approval for gatherings of 25 or more non-residents in common areas. My gathering was on private property, and we were well under that number. She then complained about the cars parked on the street, though they were legally parked. I offered to have my company verify it, but Karen dismissed me, muttering, we'll see about that. 15 minutes later, Officer Martinez, a friend who often worked with my towing company, showed up. After a brief chat and a soda, he left, and I thought it would end there. But Karen wasn't done. The next morning, I found a massive dumpster blocking my driveway. I called the rental company, who informed me that Karen had authorized its placement. I called her immediately. There's a dumpster blocking my driveway, I said. She feigned surprise and claimed it was for street repairs, but when I checked, there were no repairs scheduled. I threatened to have it moved myself. Karen laughed, saying I'd be fined if I touched it. I called my operations manager, and within 20 minutes, our tow truck arrived. Karen sprinted down the street, but I calmly handed her legal documents proving the dumpster violated city codes. I also recorded our earlier conversation where she admitted to authorizing it. With neighbors watching, Karen's confidence cracked. The dumpster was moved, and I told her I was presenting a detailed report at the emergency board meeting that evening, including evidence of selective rule enforcement, harassment, and a conflict of interest regarding her brother-in-law's towing company. At the meeting, the board voted to remove Karen as president, suspend her brother-in-law's towing contract, and reimburse me for the cost of moving the dumpster. They also issued a formal apology. Karen's face drained of color. As she gathered her things, she muttered, "When property values plummet, don't come crying to me." She stormed out, and the vice president added, "Oh, and Karen, the board will be sending you an invoice for $2,500 to cover legal consultation costs." Karen froze, but didn't turn around. As she left, I couldn't help but smile. Finally, justice was served.